I have a question for you. If you want to get to know somebody, do you think it's best to just overhear people talk about that person? Or do you think it's best to actually get to know them for yourself? Well, obviously it's the second one, right? And the same thing applies for getting to know the Book of Mormon. Rather than just listening to other people talk about it, you can get to know the book for yourself. Hi, my name's Shara Ogilvie, and I'm helping you read the Book of Mormon from cover to cover, providing commentary and insights from the perspective of a lifetime believer. Today is day 12. We're reading chapter 8 in 1st Nephi. And this chapter is really exciting because it contains a lot of symbolism that is really important to members of the Latter-day Saint faith, symbols that they talk about every day, in some cases, like river of water, tree of life, great and spacious building, iron rod. These symbols are so exciting. They contain so much meaning, and they can even be helpful to you, whether you believe in our particular faith or not. So let's get started and see what we can learn today. Now, before we crack open the actual text, I'm going to share a quick quote that you might like. And the reason I'm sharing this quote is because, this chapter we're reading about a prophet having a vision. And of course, it's in scripture, and generally people, are fine with visions occurring in scripture. But I thought it would be fun to share our Latter-day Saint worldview of how we feel about visions today. Like if someone were to receive a vision today. And this is from the prophet Joseph Smith. It was talking about all the different gifts of the Spirit, that we believe in prophecy and revelations and visions and healings and miracles, all those kinds of gifts from the Spirit. But he includes this caution. He says, we believe in the gift of the Holy Ghost and all the gifts of the Spirit in their fullness. And we also believe in the power and greatness and glory of these things. But whilst we do this, we believe in it rationally, reasonably, consistently, and scripturally, and not according to the wild vagaries and foolish notions and traditions of men. And the reason I like that is that does take a certain amount of discernment to know what is the difference between something that's going to really lead you astray or be irrational, or lead you into crazy land, or whether it's going to actually be of the Spirit that is edifying and uplifting. And the litmus test here is that there's some rationality about it. It accords with other things that you know that are true. It accords with other scriptures. And so I just thought you might enjoy that because we're reading about a vision that a prophet has. So I will post that quote in the comments in case you want to refer to it later. So let's go ahead and get started in chapter 8. Now, I'm going to tell you that chapter 8, all the content that happens in this vision that this prophet has, the entire vision is repeated again 3 chapters later when the prophet's son Nephi also has the same vision, but in his case, he is provided the interpretation of the vision as well. So in 3 chapters, we will be reading the interpretation of the vision, but in this chapter, we're just reading the vision. So I'm not really going to provide a whole lot of interpretation because I want you to have a very organic experience of reading this account just as if you were hearing it, as one of his sons, that he's sharing his vision with his sons, and they did not know what it meant. They were confused about what it could possibly mean. So I want you to have that same experience encountering it for the first time and thinking, what do these symbols mean? And asking yourself, can you make sense of some of it? Because you might come up with some really good ideas about what some of these symbols mean. But again, in 3 chapters, we're going to be provided with a full explanation of what these symbols mean. So not to fear, the answers will be forthcoming. All right, chapter 8. Lehi, this is the little italicized summary at the beginning of the chapter. Lehi sees a vision of the tree of life. He partakes of its fruit and desires his family to do likewise. He sees a rod of iron, a straight and narrow path, and the mist of darkness that enshroud men. Sariah, Nephi, and Sam partake of the fruit, but Laman and Lemuel refuse, about 600 to 592 BC. And hopefully you've had a chance to read the other chapters leading up to this, so you're all up to speed. But in case you're not, there's a family of Lehi and his wife Sariah, his sons Laman and Lemuel, Nephi and Sam. They have left Jerusalem. They're fleeing from Jerusalem in around the 600 BC time period because Jerusalem is wicked and God has warned them to leave, or else they will likewise be destroyed with the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Lehi is a prophet, and his family is divided. Laman and Lemuel, his older sons, rebel, and then his younger sons, Nephi and Sam, tend to be compliant, obedient. All right, so verse 1. It came to pass that we had gathered together all manner of seeds of every kind, both of grains of every kind, and also the seeds of fruit of every kind. And it came to pass that while my father tarried in the wilderness, he spake unto us, saying, Behold, I have dreamed a dream, or in other words, I have seen a vision. So they're going about their day, gathering berries, nuts, and seeds, when Dad says, guess what, guys, I've had a vision. And this probably doesn't surprise them, because Lehi consistently has visions. This is just his particular gift of how he receives his spiritual communication from God. He gets quite a bit of this kind of thing. So he sits the family down, and probably Laman and Lemuel were rolling their eyes, and probably Nephi and Sam were like, okay, we're willing to hear this. So verse 3. And behold, because of the thing which I have seen, I have reason to rejoice in the Lord because of Nephi and also of Sam, for I have reason to suppose that they and also many of their seed will be saved. But behold, Laman and Lemuel, I fear exceedingly because of you. For behold, methought I saw in my dream a dark and dreary wilderness. And it came to pass that I saw a man, and he was dressed in a white robe, and he came and stood before me. And it came to pass that he spake unto me and bade me to follow him. So this sounds kind of like Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, right? There's this messenger that comes and says, follow me. And so he goes off following this messenger. It came to pass that as I followed him, I beheld myself that I was in a dark and dreary waste. And after I had traveled for the space of many hours in darkness, I began to pray unto the Lord that he would have mercy on me according to the multitude of his tender mercies. So that's kind of fun to imagine. He's in the middle of a vision, but he has this dark feeling, and so he's praying to God within his vision, kind of meta. Verse 9, it came to pass after I had prayed unto the Lord, I beheld a large and spacious field. And it came to pass that I beheld a tree whose fruit was desirable to make one happy. And it came to pass that I did go forth and partake of the fruit thereof. And I beheld that it was most sweet above all that I had ever before tasted. Yea, and I beheld that the fruit thereof was white to exceed all the whiteness that I ever had seen. So up to this point, he's being shown by this messenger, this big field. And then it's really dark and depressing. He prays for help. And then he sees this white tree with white fruit, and he eats it, and it's delicious, and he feels really, really happy. So these are symbolizing things, but again, I'm not going to tell you what it means. You might already have some ideas, and we will find out later what it all means. Verse 12. And as I partook of the fruit thereof, it filled my soul with exceeding great joy. Wherefore I began to be desirous that my family should partake of it also, for I knew that it was desirable above all other fruit. And as I cast my eyes round about, that perhaps I might discover my family also, I beheld a river of water, and it ran along, and it was near the tree of which I was partaking of the fruit. So he's eating the fruit, and then he's like, wait a minute, I would like to know where my family is. He's looking around for them, and then he sees there's a river of water running nearby. And I looked to behold from whence it came, and I saw the head thereof was a little way off. And the head thereof I beheld, at the head thereof I beheld your mother Sariah and Sam and Nephi, and they stood as if they knew not whither they should go. So he looks upstream of this river, and he sees his wife and his two younger sons looking around, feeling confused. Verse 15, and it came to pass that I beckoned unto them, and I also did say unto them with a loud voice that they should come unto me and partake of the fruit which was desirable above all other fruit. And it came to pass they did come unto me and partook of the fruit also. So he beckons to his wife and his youngest two children, and they see him, they hear him, and they come and join him in partaking of the fruit. And it came to pass that I was desirous that Laman and Lemuel should also come and partake of the fruit. Wherefore I cast my eyes towards the head of the river, that perhaps I might see them. And it came to pass that I saw them, but they would not come unto me and partake of the fruit. So the older two boys, he sees them, he beckons, but they will not come. And I beheld a rod of iron, and it extended along the bank of the river that led to the tree by which I stood. And I also beheld a straight and narrow path, which came along by the rod of iron, even to the tree by which I stood. And it also led by the head of the fountain unto a large and spacious field, as if it had been a world. So there's this path that goes to the tree, and there's a rod of iron along that path leading to the tree. It makes me think about, I have hiked at Zion's, I've hiked Angel's Landing, where there's a very narrow strip along the mountain, and you have to hold on to a chain to ensure your safety. So I don't know that the path was necessarily steep on both sides, but you have to kind of hold on to stay on the path. That's the idea. This rod of iron is along the path, and you hold on to it to ensure that you stay on the path, and it leads to that tree with the white fruit. Again, all of this is very symbolic. Verse 21, and I saw numberless concourses of people, many of whom were pressing forward, that they might obtain the path which led unto the tree by which I stood. And it came to pass that they did come forth and commence in the path which led to the tree. So this gets really interesting, because we have now just nameless people, just random folks who are also coming to the path and trying to get onto the path to get to the tree with the fruit. And we will see that they have various outcomes as they go along. It came to pass that there arose a mist of darkness, yea, even an exceeding great mist of darkness, insomuch that they who had commenced in the path did lose their way, that they wandered off and were lost. So some people had been trying to get to that path with the rod of iron, but this mist of darkness, this like thick, gray, smoggy, smoky stuff, prevented them from seeing clearly, and they lost their way, and they never made it to the path. It came to pass, I beheld others pressing forward, and they came forth and caught hold of the end of the rod of iron, and they did press forward through the mist of darkness, clinging to the rod of iron, even until they did come forth and partake of the fruit of the tree. And after they had partaken of the fruit of the tree, they did cast their eyes about as if they were ashamed. So here's a second group of people. The first group, they try to get to the path, but there's all this black fog and they can't get there, so they lose their way. The second group, they get to the path, they hold onto the rod, they keep going, and they make it to the tree to get the fruit, and then they're ashamed, and so they fall away. So verse 26, I cast my eyes round about and beheld on the other side of the river of water there was a great and spacious building, and it stood as it were in the air high above the earth, and it was filled with people, old and young, male and female. And their manner of dress was exceedingly fine, and they were in the attitude of mocking and pointing their finger toward those who had come at and were partaking of the fruit. And after they had tasted of the fruit, they were ashamed. And because of those that were scoffing at them, they fell away into forbidden paths and were lost. So the second group of people that made it to the path and then got to that tree and ate the fruit, the reason they fell ashamed and left the fruit is because there's all these people in this big building making fun of them, and they feel so embarrassed that they're sitting there joyfully eating fruit when people are just pointing their finger at them. So then they leave. And now I, Nephi, do not speak all the words of my father. But to be short in writing, behold, he saw other multitudes pressing forward, and they came and caught hold of the rod of iron, and they did press forward, continually holding to the rod of iron, until they came forth and fell down and partook of the tree. And he also saw other multitudes feeling their way towards the great and spacious building. So he sees a couple of other groups, some that get onto the path, hold the rod of iron, get to the tree, and stay there. They're just eating the fruit. And then some that are not even trying to get on the path. They are heading towards that great and spacious building. They want to be at the building instead of eating the fruit. And it came to pass that many were drowned in the depths of the fountain, and many were lost from his view, wandering in strange roads. And great was the multitude that did enter into that strange building. And after they did enter into that building, they did point the finger of scorn at me and those who were partaking of the fruit, but we heeded them not. These are the words of my father, for as many as heeded them had fallen away. So you have some people who actually made it to the building, many people that made it to the building, and they're just sitting there making fun of everybody else that's not in the building. And then you have Lehi and his family who are not heeding the mockers, and so they don't fall away. So verse 35, and Laman and Lemuel partook not of the fruit, said my father. And it came to pass after my father had spoken all the words in his dream or vision, which were many, he said unto us, because of the things which he saw in a vision, he exceedingly feared for Laman and Lemuel. Yea, he feared lest they should be cast off from the presence of the Lord. And he did exhort them with all the feelings of a tender parent, that they would hearken to his words, that perhaps the Lord would be merciful to them and not cast them off. Yea, my father did preach unto them. So something about the dream really spooked Lehi that his two older sons would not be saved in God's kingdom or something like that. And so he's taking this opportunity to preach to them, to basically beg them, please, please be mindful of your ways. Please, please try to do better, or to choose God, or, check yourselves. Verse 38, and after he had preached unto them, he also prophesied unto them many things. He bade them to keep the commandments of the Lord, and he did cease speaking unto them. So that is the end of that chapter. And again, as a reminder, all the interpretations will be forthcoming. There's a really beautiful picture. In fact, there's multiple pictures that have been made of this dream. Lots of Latter-day Saint artists that have tried to depict what this would look like. But I will link in the description a link to Greg Olson. He's a Latter-day Saint artist who has created a depiction of this that I think is particularly lovely. Thank you so much for joining me. I love reading the Book of Mormon with you, and I hope you're having a great time learning about it. Go ahead and leave a comment about something that you're learning or something that you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.